Hi guys, Miss Patterson here. Today we're going to be talking about subject and predicate. So before I tell you what those two things are, we're going to talk first just about sentences. So when I think of a sentence, I think of a complete thought. Sentences always make sense. They have capitalization, they have punctuation. If I were to say something like, "Oh my goodness, neither is that," you'll have a moment when you're like, "Miss Patterson, what are you talking about? Neither is what?" It's not a complete thought. Or if I said something like, "The tall tree with many branches," you'd look at me again and you would say, "Well, what about the tree? What is it doing?" So before we can define subject and predicate, we have to think of a sentence as a complete thought. We have to think of it as having punctuation, capitalization, and subject and predicate. So by subject, I mean who or what the sentence is about. Miss Patterson was staring at the sunset. Who was staring at the sunset? Miss Patterson. Now, the predicate tells what the subject is doing or did. It's kind of like the telling part of our sentence. So Miss Patterson is staring at the sunset. What is Miss Patterson doing? Staring at the sunset. So when we look at sentences, we're looking for the subject, that it tells a who or what, and that it has a predicate, what it does or did. So our go-to thing that we say in Miss Patterson class is that you underline the subject once and the predicate twice. So when we look at different sentences, we want to see if they're complete thoughts. We want to see if all the sentences have a subject and a predicate, because it's not a complete sentence without the two ingredients. So we're going to look at 3 different sentences. I'm going to do the first sentence and underline the subject once and the predicate twice. And you're going to do the second sentence, maybe with a friend or a parent there to help you. And the third sentence, you're going to do all by yourself. Capiche? Caposh. So our first sentence says that little Andy played in the wet sand. So underline the subject once. I have to think, okay, who is the sentence about? The who in the sentence is little Andy. Now, what is little Andy doing? He played in the wet sand. Underline the subject once and the predicate twice. So I underlined played in the wet sand twice because it's what little Andy was doing. So I asked myself, okay, subject and a predicate. Is this a complete sentence? Yes. Now, number 2 says that Aunt Betty loves flowers. With a parent, friend, partner, as someone you can find, I want you to underline the subject once and the predicate twice. Subject, who or what is the sentence about? Predicate, what are they doing? Aunt Betty loves flowers. I'll give you some time. Okay, so let's double check our answers. Who was the sentence about? Aunt Betty. So I'd underline Aunt Betty once, and then what was Aunt Betty doing? Loves flowers. So I underline that twice. Now number 3, I want you to do all by yourself. It says the whole family listens to the radio. Underline the subject once and the predicate twice. Okay, who is the sentence about? The whole family. And what were they doing? Listening to the radio. Now, when I look back at these sentences, I see a pattern. I see some kind of word that connects the subject to the predicate. Do you guys see that word by any chance? A type of word? The whole family listens. Aunt Betty loves. Little Andy played. I'm looking at listens, loves, and played. And I've noticed that they are all the same type of word. They're all action words, they're verbs. So now I know that the subject is always followed by a verb. So if I'm looking for a predicate, I typically am going to look for my verb. So I'm actually going to circle my verbs. Played, loves, listens. So now I know that every time I see a subject, a verb, I can find the predicate.